Good afternoon. My name is Sophia Longsworth. I am the Toxics Policy Director at Clean and Healthy. We co-lead the JustGreen Partnership, which is a coalition that represents environmental justice, environmental health, New York businesses, and medical professionals working towards achieving environmental justice for all New York's people and communities. We are here today, less than a month away from the end of the 2026 legislative session, to call on Assembly leadership to advance two key bills that are needed to protect public health and the environment: the Beauty Justice Act and the ban on PFAS in consumer products. Toxic chemicals like formaldehyde, lead, phthalates, parabens, and PFAS forever chemicals are in many of the products we use every day: our body wash, shaving cream, baby shampoo, cookware, dental floss, cleaning products, and more. We are very thankful to our tenacious bill sponsors, Senator Harckham, Senator Webb, and Assemblymember Glick, for their hard work to advance these bills. It is time for the Assembly to follow the Senate in passing these two bills, these two bipartisan-supported bills to protect New Yorkers' health. And right now, I'll pass it over to Senator Harckham, Chair of the Senate Environmental Conservation Committee.
Thank you very much. I am so honored to be here with all of the advocates. Thank you all so much, all of the organizations who are here today. From my chamber, Senator Lea Webb; from the Assembly, my colleague and partner and counterpart chair, Deborah Glick. You know, PFAS, quite simply, is a toxin that we cannot afford to have in the environment. We know how toxic it is. That's why they're called forever chemicals. It's a pernicious chemical. It's in so many things. And the way we prevent it from getting in the environment is to stop it upstream, to stop it in production from a whole host of consumer products. And that's why I want to thank Senator Lea Webb and Assemblymember Glick for the Beauty Justice Act, and then also the Consumer Product Act, both of which we passed in the Senate. We need to focus our attention on getting them done in the Assembly. But again, these chemicals are so pernicious for public health, and it is much cheaper than remediation in the environment to prevent it from getting in the environment in the first place. So I'm glad to be here to join with all of the advocates who are here today, my colleagues in government who are doing such amazing work, and let's keep fighting till we get this done. Thank you.
And I'll now present Senator Baskin. Very happy to have her support for our bills. Senator Baskin.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone that's here today. This is a piece of legislation that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm so proud to join my colleagues in the Senate House, Senators Harckham and Senators Webb, in being a co-sponsor of the legislation. And yes, working very, very diligently with our partners in the Assembly to make sure that we get PFAS passed in this session. Last year, I actually worked on another beauty justice bill that was signed into law by Governor Hochul, requiring warning labels on hair relaxer products that contain dangerous chemicals and can cause reproductive harm or reproductive cancer. And I'm so proud to stand here today and to continue that fight with this bill. The law was not about giving consumers the information that they deserve and protecting communities for the against the things that they are so often been exposed to, like harmful products and transparency. And more needs to be done to protect the health of New Yorkers, and this bill is going to do that. We must continue pushing for stronger protections that safeguard the health of New Yorkers, especially women from communities of color who are disproportionately impacted by these toxins and these chemicals. I really, again, want to thank my partners in government, all of the advocates and the medical professionals and the researchers who have worked so hard on this bill I believe that this is a trend that the Senate truly, truly, truly needs to continue in the direction of championing. And again, so proud to be a co-sponsor. Let's get it done in the Assembly. Let's get it signed by the governor, and let's protect the health of New Yorkers. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And now we have the sponsor of the Beauty Justice Act, Senator Webb. Thank you so much for getting this bill past the finish line in the Senate. And we'd like to just hear a few words from her. Senator Webb.
I want to first thank everyone for being here today and for their continued advocacy on this whole entire package of most certainly important bills, but especially beauty justice. So I want to just share a very quick story on how we've gotten to this point, and I would be remiss if I did not lift up the Assembly sponsor, who quite frankly has been a long time and is a champion for environmental justice, and that is Assemblymember Glick. I appreciate your partnership on not only this legislation, but a number of bills in this space. And of course, I have to give also respect and appreciation to our chair in the Senate for environmental conservation, Senator Pete Harckham, who's here as well for his advocacy. Most certainly, you know, when this bill came to me when I first came into the Senate, I find that this bill, like many others, I thought, well, we don't do this already? Require that toxic chemicals that we're being exposed to, that we're not exposed to these things? And so this bill literally is aiming to make sure that as human beings that use different products for our care, whether it's shampoo, soaps, lotions, most certainly other personal care products, that what you go to purchase at your store for your personal care, you are actually not being harmed by in the long run with your health. That's what this bill does. And so it is not going to impact the ability for our beauty industry to earn income. That is still going to remain intact. All this is saying is that we know the science is there. We have to make sure we continue to protect the health and well-being of us consumers, and that is everyone. And we also support economic development through these type of industry jobs because we know they are major employers. Right. And so when I came to this bill, as I mentioned earlier, we also know through the many studies that have been done that low socioeconomic status communities, communities of color, are highly targeted with these products that have dangerous chemicals like lead, which has been proven time and time again that exposure to lead creates major health issues in our children and most certainly as they go on in age. We also know things like formaldehyde, right? Even if you're not a scientist, but we also know that formaldehyde and taking that into our bodies is unsafe. Yeah. And so there are a number of chemicals in this bill. All it simply does is provide guidance on what is permissible and most certainly what is not allowable, because we should not be co-signing anything that we know is creating harm when it comes to our health and well-being simply from using products that we need for our daily care. That's right. And so I want to thank all of the advocates that are here, and most certainly the continuing increase in support for this legislation. We have come a long way with not only meeting with advocates, but also with members of the industry, and we have made modifications to this legislation to, as we often say in this space as policymakers, create an equitable balance when we're talking about, yes, we recognize the need for supporting good paying jobs, and we also recognize the need for improving access to resources that support our well-being. And so having consumer protections, that's part of our responsibility as lawmakers, along with other important measures. We also know that having opportunity for input does not begin and end in the legislative process, is most certainly as part of the implementation. And so this legislation also provides space for both advocates and the industry to provide direct input to the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, as not only the legislation rolls out, but also how it continues to be implemented so we can continue to strike that balance. But again, to be very clear, no consumer should have to experience long-term health conditions simply because they've been using a hair care product that they did not know was exposing them to certain types of cancer because of the chemicals in the products that they were using, unbeknownst to them. And so this law aims to remedy that and also making sure that we all can do well. And again, I want to thank Assemblymember Glick, all of my colleagues that are here, Senator Baskin for her support, and all of my colleagues, and of course all the advocates. This is the right step for New York to take to continue to not only be a leader when it comes to creating much more equitable access to the environment and most certainly protecting our health and well-being. It is the right thing to do. Point blank, period. Yep. And so we know that this is an important measure. And again, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank the Senate Majority Leader and the entire team for helping us to get this passed in the Senate. And to my dear friend, Assemblymember Deborah Glick, who again has had this bill from the very beginning. I know you are working really hard to get this over the finish line in the Assembly. So to our Assembly colleagues, we continue to support in getting this over the finish line in the Assembly and ultimately signed into law by the governor. I want to thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Senator. And I join the Senator in expressing our deep appreciation to Assemblymember Glick for being a tenacious fighter and sponsor of the ban on PFAS in consumer products and the Beauty Justice Act. She's been working for decades to protect New Yorkers, not only our public health, but the health of the environment. So Assemblymember Glick, thank you for being the co-sponsor of both of these important bills, and I pass it on to you.
Thank you very much. Most people think that chemicals that are in products that are sold in stores widely have been tested by the government and been found to be safe, and that's just not true. So the right to know may exist only in people's minds because we really don't have a clarity, and nor should people need a PhD in chemistry when they go shopping. They should be able to feel confident that the products they are using personally or using in their homes do not contain dangerous chemicals like forever chemicals, PFAS, which the producers of these chemicals have had to spend millions and millions of dollars, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, settling lawsuits based on the fact that PFAS has been befouling drinking water in state after state and in our own state. So it seems to me that if we have an obligation as a government, we have an obligation to protect the citizenry. Now, that's always thought of as the Defense Department. They're there to protect us, or perhaps a police department. But this really is about the Department of Environmental Conservation being able to protect New Yorkers from dangerous chemicals. Now, maybe not everybody knows, but I'm a big fan of murder mysteries. And a lot of the things that we have in our basic personal care products and household goods are things that are used to kill people. Now, it's one thing when it is in a murder mystery. That's kind of, mindless entertainment that you can read about, but it should not be what you're ingesting or putting on your body. And so we need to be certain that as a government, we protect the people, and we protect them from things like harmful chemicals that are used regularly that create a host of exposures to potential cancer-causing chemicals, endocrine disruptors that are affecting our young people and actually creating infertility. I just constantly see, well, these are the great robotics kids. So let's give a shout out to the future of America. So we need to be certain that we're protecting people's health, because in the end, that is our job, one. Two, it's enlightened in self-interest, because people, when they don't have the money to deal with their health care, they become people who use the health care provided by the state. So I urge the leadership to lead from the governor down and do the right thing. It's time for New York to start doing the right thing that helps New Yorkers and isn't about checking which way the wind is blowing. Because in the end, if you don't do the right thing for people, they catch on. And in the end, it's in your self-interest to do the right thing. So we have chemical counsel all over the building opposing all of the bills that are good for New Yorkers and bad for the Chemistry Council. Too damn bad. We're here to protect New Yorkers, and it's time that the leadership stand up and say, even to some of the members who are, confused, this is the right thing to do, because that's what we used to do in this building. We used to do what was the right thing. It's time we get back to that.
Thank you again, Assemblymember Glick. The advocates are very appreciative of your support and your leadership and your work to pass these two bills. And thank you again to Senator Webb for getting the bill to the finish line and having it passed in the Senate. I'll now pass it over to Dr. Chase Moon from the New York State Academy of Pediatrics.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today representing the New York State American Academy of Pediatrics and many concerned healthcare professionals from around the state to urge the Assembly to pass these bills like the Senate has already done. The most common way that people encounter toxic chemicals in their daily lives is through the products they use in their homes. PFAS and other toxins enter our bodies, and doctors don't have a way to remove them once they're there. These toxins are contributing to rising rates of chronic disease in our communities and are part of the reason that our healthcare costs continue to rise and are so unaffordable. So I say that these bills are important public health policy that will reduce long-term healthcare costs, reduce chronic disease, reduce chemical exposures, and make New York healthier. So let's pass the bills. Thank you.
And I'll now pass it over to Chuck Bell from Consumer Reports.
So I'm Chuck Bell. I'm Programs Director for Advocacy at Consumer Reports. We're really pleased to be here today to join the bill sponsors for the Beauty Justice Act and the Getting PFAS Out of Consumer Products bill. These are two of the most important bills that the legislature could pass in this session to protect the health and safety of consumers in New York State. At Consumer Reports, we work with a large number of community groups in support of the Beauty Justice Act in particular. So we want to commend Senator Webb and Assemblymember Glick for their leadership, and Senator Harckham for his leadership. We have brought a petition from 1,300 of our members that says, New York, get toxins out of personal care products. And we're going to present that petition to Assembly Speaker Hasty and to Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes. And we have, at Consumer Reports, we have a testing laboratory where we test products for our members and the general public. And in the last 2 years, we've tested 40 brands of synthetic and natural braiding hair for heavy metals and volatile organic compounds, and the results were troubling. We found that 38 out of 40 samples contained volatile organic compounds, including acetone, and lead was also detected in 38 out of 40 products. Braids are typically worn for about 4 to 6 weeks, meaning that Black women and individuals who use synthetic braiding hair could experience negative health impacts from continued exposure over that time. We've just done a similar test of hair dyes this year that has also some pretty grim results. So I would refer you to our online reports. But the bottom line is that consumers of this state do not want toxins in their cosmetics and personal care products. They don't want them in their cookware or other consumer products. And so we thank our leaders, and we urge the final passage of these two bills through the Assembly in this session. That is the best thing the Assembly can do to protect the health and safety of consumers.
Thank you, Chuck. And lastly, we'll hear from Kate Donovan from NRDC.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Donovan. I'm the Director for Environmental Health at the Natural Resource Defense Council, and I echo everything. These are two incredibly important bills for public health, but what I'm going to add is different. New York is not the first state to do these things, which I wish we were, but we're not doing anything new. Many states have already taken measures on consumer care and personal care products, and 5 other states have banned toxic PFAS in the other set of consumer products, including cookware. The only people that are going to suffer from these bills are the profits of the industries that make these toxic products, in particular the cookware industry. They are selling you a story here in Albany that their products are not going to be available and too expensive. We know that is blatantly false. We have the data from the Bronx and Harlem that you can find safe, non-toxic cookware at the same price as toxic cookware. We have done the research. We know that these are stories. It is the playbook that has been told on every single thing that New York has done in terms of banning a certain product and saying that the product will no longer be available, it will no longer be affordable. We know that's not true. And so I urge leadership to understand the importance of these bills, and as Assemblymember Glick said, do the right thing. We are being exposed every day in our homes. We can't always control what we're being exposed to, but we should be able to control what we're being exposed to in our homes. The last point I'll make is this isn't new. New York has already banned PFAS in apparel, in paper-based food packaging, carpets, and firefighting foam. We've done this. We actually did this for many years in a row. And NRDC recently tested a bunch of apparel on the market because we wanted to see if the sky fall, if people were complying. And guess what? All of the pieces of apparel that we tested came back with non-detect, extremely low levels of PFAS. And products were still available. Consumers still got what they needed, but they got safer products. Now, the Consumer Product Bill identifies other textiles that are not covered by New York's law already. And that's things like pet beds, bags, tablecloths, curtains, upholstery. And guess what? When we tested all those products, they all had high levels of PFAS. So we need to get these bills done. We need to do it to protect our homes, our families, and the larger environmental community, because all that drinking water, all that contamination from drinking water comes from the use and disposal of these consumer products. Thanks so much.
Thank you all for being here. And lastly, I'll just say once again that the JustGreen Partnership, which represents millions of New Yorkers from Buffalo to Long Island, is calling on the Assembly leadership to pass the ban on PFAS in consumer products and the Beauty Justice Act. Thank you.